Hello, BookTube. A weird video for you here. It's mainly comic book related, so it's kind of an addendum to Wednesday Comics. Those of you who aren't interested in comics probably won't be interested in this. Although we will be talking about classic science fiction, and I will strongly be recommending classic science fiction. It all happened earlier today. My surly houseboy was doing a bit of spring cleaning and uncovered some items of mine that somehow mysteriously migrated into his own room. I don't know how that happened. And I was overjoyed to see them. I haven't seen these things in years. And I wanted to show them to you. The first one is a big reprint thing from DC Comics. They did a whole bunch of these things for fairly cheap, if I remember correctly, a few years ago. They don't do it anymore. And this one is Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. Which has it's just a collection of reprints classically from the classic years of the Legion, and it's going to be a delight to go through this. It also has, if I remember correctly, an introductory few-page feature that was the opening to a Legion reprint annual from 40 years ago, so more, 50 years ago, that gives a version of the origin story of the Legion of Superheroes that those of you who are comic book fans will probably be roughly familiar with it. The Legion is just about my favorite thing in comics. they're a super team of teenagers from multiple planets, 1,000 years in the future, who band together to fight crime and help people out. And they use a time machine to recruit Superboy, Superman, when he was a teenager. He is one of the inspirations for their team. They use a time machine to go back to the 20th century and recruit Superboy. So they bring him forward for adventures with the Legion, and then he goes back home. And the Legion became really popular. It started as just an idea in Superboy's own comic book, but it quickly became more popular than he was. And every time that if Superboy moved on to a different book and they were a backup feature, the letters would pour in, and inevitably the Legion would end up being more popular than Superboy. I've been a fan forever of the Legion of Superheroes, and the roster has only grown, the personalities have only grown, the Legion lore has only grown. And I'm not really sure about this cover. This is an adaptation of a cover that was originally drawn by Neil Adams. He did a great iconic Legion cover, and that cover was inked by Curt Swan, who had decades before and up until Neil Adams. Neil Adams was a hot young thing at the time, and Curt Swan had drawn the Legion forever and ever, and he was also a signature Superman artist. And this picture is not that. This picture is another great artist, Jerry Ordway, much later, doing something with that original cover. No idea what this is. It looks worse than Ordway would have done if he'd drawn it himself as an homage to this cover. And it certainly looks worse than the original. But I haven't seen this reprint volume in forever. I'm going to have such a blast going through it. And that's nothing compared to these next four. These next four are 4 parts in a miniseries that I thought I would never see again. Never. And this is where the classic science fiction comes in. This is Farford and Grey Mouser by Fritz Leiber. In a 4-part comic book adaptation of some of their famous adventures, Ill Met in Lankmar, Lean Times in Lankmar. And this is a duo. You can make them out on the cover of all of these issues. Farford is the great big one who looks like a Viking, and the Grey Mouser is much smaller and is an adept swordsman. And they are unlikely friends and companions in adventure in a series of novels and short stories by Fritz Leiber. And I don't think Farford and Grey Mouser is in print anymore. It probably hasn't been in quite some time. Boy, oh boy, though, I cannot recommend it strongly enough. And you don't have to take my word for it, although you should. You don't have to take my word for it. Ask any vintage science fiction and fantasy fan, ask anyone whether or not these books are worth finding and reading. They very much are. They are very much worth reading. And these adaptations have artwork by Mike Mignola. In fact, I think they're also written by Mike Mignola. Oh, no, even better. Let's take a look here. Yes, okay. The artwork is by Mike Mignola. The inks are by Al Williamson, who's a legend in his own right as an artist and an inker. And the writing is by Howard Chaykin, who's also a legend as an artist. So this is heavy-duty stuff. And these people were all dyed-in-wool fans of Fritz Leiber, not just Farford and Grey Mouser, but anything that he wrote. So these are, if I remember correctly, extremely faithful adaptations of these stories. And the reason I thought I would never see it again, even though you wouldn't think that would be true, because Mike Mignola is He's a property. He's a franchise now in comic books. He attracts the fervid attention of completists and collectors, and everything he does he can float a series on the strength of his name, on the strength of his work. He's also the creator of Hellboy, so he's achieved comic book immortality. You would think that if that's the case, these things would appear regularly in one volume, but I have never seen them in one volume, and I don't think I ever will. These were originally put out by something called Epic Comics, which I think was a part of Marvel, an arm of Marvel. I'm not sure that this will even have publication information to tell me. Published monthly, Richard Curtis Associations, Epic Comics. Yeah, I'm not sure that this is anything, and I think that's probably why I will never see it. Because who knows what happened to Epic Comics or who owns them now or any of their back catalogs. Probably a lawsuit waiting to happen for anyone to even talk about reprinting this. And that's not the only thing that is true for Mike Mignola. Mike Mignola also did a 4-issue miniseries adaptation of Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula movie, where Mignola was not adapting Bram Stoker's novel. He was adapting that movie, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's even more visually striking than the movie. I have those issues. They're beaten up to hell and gone. And the reason that I held on to them, even though they're in terrible shape, is because who knows who has the rights to buy that artwork and make it into a new book. If you did that, it would sell. If you made that Mike Mignola's Dracula into a hardcover and put it in specialty shops, it would sell. Same thing with these. If anybody owned the right to these things and put them together in one volume, they would sell, not only to Mike Mignola fans, but also to Fritz Leiber fans. Either way, I mean, the fact that I'm never going to see it as a collection is a very new concern. Once upon a time, comic book fans did not even think that they were going to see something in a collection. But the fact that I can look at these things, and of course, you can tell that these have been in the safekeeping of my surly houseboy and not me, because look at the shape that they're in. They're perfect. They're in perfect condition. And in the blink of an eye, they won't be. With me, they won't be. Right now, at least, I don't have a dog who randomly chews on things. Frida does not randomly chew on things. She does not randomly destroy things. Never really has. She doesn't pee on things to express her displeasure. She doesn't drag things around the house. She doesn't do anything like that. She's not a mouthy dog. She's mouthy. She's an extremely mouthy dog when it comes to letting her opinions be known. She yodels at people every day to get them to do what she wants. But she doesn't have any normal, any of the anxieties, the chewing anxieties that I've seen in so many dogs. I've had them. And it's such a small thing, usually. It's such a small, low wattage anxiety that I don't bother to put much effort into fixing it. I just make peace with the fact that I'm going to lose some material. But Frida doesn't do anything like that. So it's not a case of it being her fault or even someone that I can blame. It'll be me. It'll be entirely my fault. I will read these things and be too rough on them. And maybe I should make it a point not to do that, because these are not things that I think I will ever see reprinted. I don't think that will ever be true. It's a shame, unless maybe one of you knows that I'm wrong. I would love to hear it. If there's a volume that collects all of these, I'd love to have it. If there's a volume that collects Mignola's Dracula, I'd love to have it. I'm a fan of Mike Mignola, not just his Hellboy, but the only work of his that I see reprinted that isn't Hellboy is he did a series called Iron Wolf that's actually very good sort of space opera science fiction. And he did a DC Comics thing called, what was it called, Odyssey? DC Comics Odyssey, which pitted a whole bunch of DC characters against Darkseid and had some really good moments to it. But independent stuff like this stuff, I don't know where you would find this. You would have to find these individual volumes, unless I'm wrong. And then there's this Legion volume, which I am a collector of all things Legion. I absolutely love it. I'm dreading the reboot that's coming up soon from DC Comics. You've been listening to me complain for years now that DC Comics does not currently publish a Legion of Superheroes comic book, even though it is, historically speaking, one of their most popular items. One of the most popular franchises, beloved by thousands of readers. They have just not done it. And, be careful what you wish for, because they are indeed going to do a Legion relaunch. And I am not sanguine about its chances for pleasing me. But anyway, I just wanted to show you these things, because that spring cleaning doesn't happen that often, and this was just a delight. My eyes just lit up when I saw these things. I haven't seen them in years. Makes me wonder what else has been migrated into that room. I'm not going to bother to ask. I have plenty of stuff as it is. But I'm going to wrap this up for now. So it's a little comic book extra for you, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.